Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours.
Howdy, everyone. How are we doing today? We've got some more CGL GOATS action for you. We are finally into our bracket stage of our EU tournament. How you doing today, Tiny?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful, Fletch. It's a great day to wake up, and you know what? GOATS Tournament, greatest of all time, for a good reason, and we've made it all the way to that bracket stage. Like you said, those round robins did wrap up yesterday. We're ready to get into that double elimination side today. So we'll go ahead, take a look at those teams that we're going to be starting out with. It's going to be GOATS and Gather Team 6 facing it off. And when we were looking through these rosters just before we are getting started, there are quite a few familiar faces on here that have been around within the contenders and open division scene within the Overwatch community. So I'm expecting some of this higher level gameplay to really come out here, particularly from Gather Team 6. They had the lower seed heading into this bracket. They already had to play a match, so they're warmed up. They 2-0'd Team Steve before they're coming in to face the GOATS squad. in the next round here. So still sticking with our first to two format in the same style that we were yesterday. Those same rules are going to apply. For those of you that weren't here, it is going to be back to 6v6. All of the changes have been reverted in a special workshop code that was made specifically for this tournament. So teams are forced to play Diva and Zarya at all times. They can opt for either a Reinhardt or a Winston. Also, Lucio and Brigitte will be required. Zenyatta, Moira, and Ana maybe switched out accordingly. However, I do know, at least from yesterday, we didn't see a lot of these swaps come in. A lot of these teams just opted to stick with that Zenyatta for certain advantages that were to be seen later on. But however, that could very much well depend on the map that we begin with.
Yeah, I think the only time that I saw anything other than a Zenyatta yesterday, and to be clear, no Winston got played as far as
No.
I'm concerned. None. But the
Mm-mm.
only time we ever saw anything other than Zen was it was in an absolutely dominating match by MME Dive, a console team yesterday where they whipped out the Moira
Yeah.
as kind of a BM kind of thing when they were dominating on Kings Row. So I do expect to see a lot of the Zen
Mhm.
specifically because of the Discord. That's such a powerful tool to just melt through these tanks.
It certainly is. And, that could very well depend on how the are. I mean, control, of course, you're going to want to stick to more of this Broly style. These fights, they're going to go fast. I want to see them start to get wrapped up there. When you saw our first team there, we saw specifically Danid and Jaru. Wanted to highlight them just a little bit. Jaru being on X Oblivion, had a lot of success in both contenders and open division, as well as Danid was part of the famed London, or excuse me, I'm completely British Hurricane there. Had a lot of success up till 2020. Both have been around in the Overwatch community for quite some time. They have the experience under their belts, and what we've been seeing just kind of as a reoccurring pattern. These rosters that have been playing together, that have the experience, or even just the ability to compete, that takes a lot of skill, a lot of time to be able to rack that up. Are the ones that have been finding the most success heading into today. So this is going to be a battle of who's been able to have that greater practice, who has the experience, and who's really wanting to show up. It is a double elimination bracket, and with it only being first to two, we expect these games to go relatively quickly. While you have a cushion to fall back on at this time, it's not something you want to pull out this early in the bracket. We are only in the round of 8 so far, so keeping in mind, moving on to those ladder matches is going to be important, as there is a prize pool on the line after all, Fletch. And, as we get ready to kick it off here on Nepal, these players, I bet that's all that's on their minds right now, is coming out with their best performance and being able to pull together something on this first map.
Yeah, you said like there is a prize pool. I think across the four brackets it's $2,000. So that's nothing to scoff at, to be honest.
Mm-mm.
But I also feel like it's definitely, these guys have been around each other, especially because that EU scene, like the NA scene, you've got people being friends for years at a time. And that EU scene is even smaller, so these guys know each other and they want to beat each other up. So this is definitely also, I feel like, a pride thing for them,
Mm-hmm.
because you know they've known each other for years, and I'm kind of excited to see what kind of stuff they're gonna roll out with here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I love these friendly rivalries. They had so many more layers to like this narrative that we're building up about this matchup in general. So a lot of them have seen each other just on the battlefield of different tournaments in general on these higher level teams, and now they're shaking it up a bit because we are doing goats. No DPS are going to be seen on the field, which a lot of these players we know them a little bit more for when they are playing on these DPS heroes. Now heading into Nepal here, which hopefully will be in a little bit. Um, this is going to be a bit of an interesting style. Nepal is one of those goats maps that you really start to think of, all right, this is a map that we know that this comp is good on. You think back to specifically Sanctum, I can think of several moments that this is just where this composition can shine. These rotations are so important to how you're playing the map. Sanctum specifically, but also Village and Shrine. We can start to see the importance of where and how you're taking this fight is going to matter. I want to see these aggressive play styles. I want to see these players rotating on the same page, how they're using these speed cooldowns specifically, because that is the essence of these 6 players. That is the essence of GOATs, and I truly want to see that embraced today. They had the whole day to practice yesterday, essentially, right, Fletch? We're expecting them to come into this with a semi-plan of how they want to pull this out, how they want to practice, because It's about to get pretty crazy, pretty chaotic, especially once we get those tech issues resolved and we can actually jump in to our series here. I want to know what your opinion is, kind of on goats in general. Do you have like, what is your overall thoughts on the composition? I'm just curious.
I don't know if you know this, but I only started casting recently, and
Mm-hmm.
I never actually got to even watch goats, let alone cast it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first time, you know, heading into the chaos that is this composition. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been such a wild thing to watch because this is, this is the composition that people know Overwatch for.
Yeah.
We're still feeling the effects of goats to this day with the roll lock, right?
Yeah.
So it's been fun to try and learn something from so long ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think goats was the meta, what, 2019 into 2020.
Yeah.
So, getting prepared for this, I did watch that season 2 stage 1 grand finals,
Mm-hmm.
and really great match. If y'all haven't watched it, y'all should. But chaos, I mean, it's so much fun. I
Yeah.
love watching goats. It stayed around, overstayed its welcome a little bit, but it's been fun to watch it.
Yeah. I totally get that. I mean, you and I are in the same boat there. That I didn't even start Overwatch until like mid 2020. So that goats meta had already come and gone. Echo was a hero at the time that I started playing. So I'm a bit of an Overwatch newbie myself, but I've always loved the goats composition as a whole, and it's been something that I've enjoyed not only to cast, but also to enjoy on the. I know I said the magic word, but that thing just. Did you? Yeah. See, this is why I need to change that. Every time I say that, it's a problem. I really need to, considering I cast Overwatch a lot, it would not be the best thing that I should be saying out here when.
Well,
Oh my
luckily
goodness.
it shouldn't be much of a problem once we actually
True.
get
Very
started.
true. Very true.
So,
Imagine if Echo was a thing when goats came out, because you remember, like, there's been different variations with like the Sombra goats or even Farah, the Shanghai dragons started to run a little bit. It got kind of crazy out there. So seeing that Echo was not a hero at that time, we go ahead and take those. This is gonna be our classic 6v6 brawl. I've loved seeing the teams kind of learn how and adapt, kind of in the middle of this. We've been, how long have we been in Overwatch 2? Since last October, so it's about, so
8 months?
7 months? Yeah, it's been quite a while. So seeing these players starting to readjust to like, hey, I remember this. You get that feeling of nostalgia, just kind of looking at all of these guys coming out. I mean, it seems so weird to see 6 players up at the top of the screen in general. You have to change all of the lingo that I've tried so hard to ingrain into my memory. And you know what? Thankfully, we're going to have a little bit more time to practice that ourselves, because we are going to go to a bit of a break, get these tech issues sorted out. But don't go anywhere, because we got our Ghost Tournament coming right up.